welcome back to the show today. We are talking about buyouts in the NBA. What is a buyout in the NBA? It's another one of those things that's exactly what it sounds like. An NBA player is paid a certain amount of money for his contract to end. After he receives his money, he is no longer obligated to play for that team. He receives his money, and then he is free to go sign with any team that he wants. He is a free agent. But his contract is also terminated, so the rest of the money he would have earned, he doesn't get. So that's why you usually only see a buyout at the end of a contract, after a player has made most of his money already. If there are a lot of years and a lot of money left on the contract, he's going to stick around and wait until he gets most of it. Most NBA players would rather sit on the bench and get paid than forego their money and actually play basketball and win. It sucks, but no one in the history of time has ever loved basketball so much that they'd give up $50 million. Now let's do a recent example. The Milwaukee Bucks probably approached Damian Lillard about a possible buyout. As a matter of fact, I am sure they did. Lillard had 2 years left on his deal at $122 million. They probably came to Dame and said, hey, you've got $122 million left on your contract. What if we gave you 80 and then released you? You're injured, you're gonna eat up $60 million of our payroll, and you're not gonna play any games. We can't make any changes to our team, and we're gonna be worse next year because you're not playing. How about you go take the $80 million and go play with your kids in Portland? Take a year off, enjoy your family, and the $80 million you don't have to work for. But Dame was probably like, no way, I want the full $122 million. I don't care that our team's gonna suck, I want my money. This is probably the last big contract that I'm gonna sign, and I want the whole damn thing. And it was a smart move by Dame to not get bought out, because the Bucks released him, meaning he got to keep the entire $122 million to not play basketball for the next 2 years. On top of that, he is free. He is a free agent. He can sign anywhere he wants to make even more money. This is kind of unbelievable to me, and it makes me a little bit embarrassed to be an NBA fan, because one way or another, the basketball-related income comes from fans like us. We buy League Pass, we buy merch, we go to games, we pay $20 for a Truly lemonade. And half that money goes to the owners, but the other half goes to the players. Now, some of that money is going to Dame's dead contract. Maybe I wouldn't be so bitter if my Truly lemonade was $10. Maybe I wouldn't be so bitter if League Pass didn't crash all the time. If Stream East wasn't a better option. If you can't tell, the NBA is on notice with me. There are problems. So let's talk about a buyout that just happened. Let's talk about Deandre Ayton. Deandre Ayton was bought out the last year of his contract with the Portland Trail Blazers. So Ayton was owed $35 million for his services next season. So the story is, Ayton came to the Blazers front office and said, hey, I want to play on a winning team. If you give me $25 million and release me, you can save $10 million on your books next year. The Blazers said, done, here's $25 million. And they no longer owe Deandre Ayton $35 million for next year. Well, you may think that's a waste of $25 million. You might think, well, why didn't they just try to trade Ayton? Try to get something for him? The answer is because they couldn't. No one likes Deandre Ayton. I hate to be a but the Suns traded him away for Yusuf Nurkic. They even needed to give Toumani Camara to get rid of him. And then, by all accounts in Portland, he had a pretty bad attitude. He was constantly late for meetings, and he was late for medical treatment. Listen, I'm not there. I'm not in the Portland Trail Blazers practice facility. I've also never met Deandre Ayton, but nobody pays a cool guy with a strong work ethic $25 million to get the f out of their face. You may say, well, Joe Cronin said it was because he wanted to play on a winning team. Joe Cronin thanked Deandre Ayton for his services. Yeah, I'm sure he did say that. I'm sure that was part of the buyout agreement for him to say nice things about Deandre Ayton. They had to at least pretend that he wasn't hard to work with. So Deandre Ayton became a free agent, and he signed with the Los Angeles Lakers, 2 years for $16 million, which is a good deal given Ayton's stats. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I've never said that. I'm saying he's been on 2 NBA teams, and both NBA teams have had to make sacrifices to get him off the team. But maybe he joins the Lakers and everything changes for some reason. So personally, I think buyouts are the kiss of death for NBA players. I've never seen an NBA player get bought out and then suddenly revitalize his career. Personally, I think it's better to just ride out your contract than get bought out. And here's why. When an NBA player gets bought out, usually they sign a vet minimum contract. So players are coming off max contracts where teams had committed a lot of money to them. Teams who pay players a lot of money tend to give them more opportunities. They want to get their money's worth. That's the way it is. The reason LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry don't take a little bit less money to make their team better is for this reason. As long as a team is financially committed to a player, there is a certain status that they hold amongst the team. Ben Simmons last year with the Brooklyn Nets got whatever opportunity that he wanted. He was on a max contract. He was their highest paid player. The Nets wanted him to be good. They wanted him to showcase his talent, if for any other reason, to give him some actual trade value. If you're on a large contract, there is no way the team is not going to think about you. You're always going to be on their mind whether they want to move you or keep you. So after the Nets bought out Ben Simmons, he joined the Clippers on a league minimum deal. There was no investment at all from the Clippers. They just wanted to see maybe if he he had anything left in the tank. He played 17 games for the Clippers and he averaged less than 3 points a game. They basically gave him a tryout and they weren't interested. As a matter of fact, he played 5 of the 7 Clippers playoff games and he averaged less than 1 point a game. Now, free agency has started and the Clippers have no interest in re-signing him. After he got bought out, it lowered his status in the league to league minimum status. After being cycled out by the Clippers, he's lucky to get a roster spot. So it's not uncommon for a player to come off a 4 or 5 year max contract and then be out of the league in a year or two. So let's talk about stale max contracts in the NBA. This is a term I made up. I think it's pretty good. It's when a team becomes upside down on a contract. It's like when you purchase a home and then the value of the home goes down and you now owe more on the loan than the house is actually worth. So even if you sold the home to get out from under the loan, you'd still owe a little bit of money to the bank. It can be that way with NBA players as well. Let's take a player like Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. signed his rookie contract extension in 2021. It was 5 years for $179 million. And it didn't even start that year. It was for the following 5 years. Well, now it's 2025 and there are still 2 more years left on that contract at $38 million and $40 million. Michael Porter Jr. at this current point in time is not a $38 million player. If he were a free agent right now, no one would sign him to a $38 million a year contract. The Nuggets had to get rid of him though. They're trying to win another championship. So when they traded him for Cameron Johnson, a guy who makes about half as much money and has about the same stats, the Nets said, hey, well, you owe us something too. We're not just going to take back your overpaid player. The Nuggets had to give up a first-round pick in order to trade away Michael Porter Jr. Some people even say that the trade would have been a good deal even if Cameron Johnson hadn't come back in the trade. They think it was worth a first-round pick just to get off of Michael Porter Jr.'s 2 large contracts. So I would say before you complain about your team letting one of your players walk in free agency and get nothing in return for him, keep in mind you could have signed the player and then had to pay a team to get rid of him. So to me, the Deandre Ayton buyout feels very similar to the Andre Drummond buyout in 2021. Andre Drummond was finishing his contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They tried to trade him before the deadline, but no one was interested. This should have been a sign for Andre. No one's interested in my $28 million a year contract. Maybe I should try to work some type of extension out here with the Cavs. But he didn't. He wanted bought out by the Cavs. He wanted to play on a championship contending team. So the Cavs bought him out for an undisclosed amount of money, and then he signed a minimum deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. So Andre Drummond believed he would sign for this measly amount of money, he'd win a championship, and then in the offseason he would sign another max contract with a team. That did not happen. The Lakers lost in the first round against the Phoenix Suns, and Andre Drummond demonstrated that he's not a max contract player. Great rebounder, but he only scored 9 points a game, and he just couldn't defend in the pick and roll. In Game 6, he didn't even play. Frank Vogel started Marc Gasol, and then he subbed in Montrezl Harrell. Drummond went from making $28.4 million to $2.4 million when he signed with the Sixers the following year. After getting bought out, he made less than 10% of his previous salary. So I like to pick on these buyout guys because I think there's this mentality of get me away from these losers. Like they're too good for the team they're on. So I think it's important to remember in life, if you find yourself surrounded by losers, there's a high likelihood that the losers that are surrounding you are thinking the same thing. There are literally no examples of players who took contract buyouts and then signed another big contract. It never happens in the NBA. Blake Griffin being bought out by the Pistons, Russell Westbrook being bought out by the Jazz, John Wall being bought out by the Rockets. The only example that kind of makes sense but it doesn't even work is Derrick Rose. And it doesn't really work because Derrick Rose was waived, not actually bought out by the Jazz. He was traded from the Cavs at the end of his deal and then he was immediately cut. Rose then got a job as a backup point guard with the Minnesota Timberwolves from his buddy Tom Thibodeau. Derrick Rose went from being a former MVP to signing a league minimum deal, but he was able to redeem himself in Minnesota. That season he scored 18 points a game and he shot 37% from 3. He was even in the 6-man race. And then of course we all remember his 50-point game.
Your career high 50 points. What does it mean to you, Derrick?
Everything, man. I work my ass off, bro.
The following season, Derrick Rose signed a 2-year, $15 million deal with the Detroit Pistons. And then his next contract was a 3-year deal with the New York Knicks for $43 million. That's like 6 or 7 times a minimum contract. So I think this actually proves my point because Derrick Rose was not bought out. He was waived. He was cut from the Jazz. That's a different mentality than a buyout player. A buyout player is entitled, while a waived player has something to prove. He has to prove that the team that kicked him to the curb made a big mistake. All right, thank you for being here. Hey, you liked the video last week, and it helped. You liked the video the last 2 weeks, and I appreciate you, and I love you. But I love my patrons the most. Leave a comment, be good to your mothers, eat a corn dog.